this thing working? Are we live? It looks like we're live. Well, what's happening, everybody? I hope everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you're watching this. So, as it turns out, the new charger was released, which is kind of an interesting thing when you think about it, because in one way, the new charger wasn't released. What it turns out is that it is the tale of two Mopars, if you will. You have two different camps that have been introduced to us, but obviously just the release being really more the reveal. But the reality is that we don't really know what the price of these things is going to be. There's some estimates floating around out there, but that's kind of beside the point. I think really what we need to do is we have to talk about these two completely different vehicles, basically in two different videos. Now, the live show, we can talk about whatever you want, but the reality is that I am right down the middle of the page torn on this. So the reason why I'm so torn is because of how the car was brought to light. The big push, because it was brought in first, you would think would be for the EVs. Now, I have a very unique perspective on EVs, and not just because I've had my dad worked at a racetrack and would instruct people on how to deal with their burning out of control contraptions. But the thing about the EV to me is that it's not really the car that Dodge needs. There's so much R&D tied up into this thing, with the only redeeming quality to it being that it is fast. But is it really? So compare and contrast this with the six-pack cars, the cars that are going to be running that Hurricane Inline 6. I want you to think about this just a second. Take the RT out of this, or whatever they're going to call it, the Scat Pack, whatever they're going to call that version of the six-pack car. High output, all-wheel drive, 550 horse. Here's what I want to throw out there for this, just so that we can talk about it. Hey, Demon 170 owner, what's it like not having the highest specific output that Dodge could have given you? Oh, and by the way, the H6 does it on gasoline. It's not even a flex fuel car, for Pete's sake. How does that happen? I have so many emotions about this whole situation. And in a way, I'm kind of really not in the hunt. I do have my F-150 that I just bought that I do love. I'm glad to be away from Dodge for a hot minute, but I do still have Buffy, and we do still have my wife's Jeep. But I've got to think about what is it that Dodge is trying to do here. Because on one hand, I almost feel offended now by the EVs. Does that make any sense to you guys? Like, I don't feel like it was a disrespect to me personally. But there's something about the EVs that just kind of rubs me the wrong way. Now, I'm all on board with the H6 cars, those Hurricane 6-shooters or 6-packers or whatever. They're awesome. And I called it before it came out. The all-wheel drive version of that car is going to be hell to deal with on the street. But the EV, I got to tell you something. Really? I got to ask at least, what were you thinking? Because here's the problem with EV in this market. You can tart it up however you like. Put as big of tires on this thing and make that, whatever that, hold on, wait. Wait. Off camera. That sound that it makes. The sound that sounds like that really shit-faced sorority chick that's barfing in the corner, like not even in the bathroom. That's what it sounds like. What is that noise supposed to be? What is that? Is it supposed to be it's Why is it so hard to get this right, Dodge? Why is it so hard to get it right? My whole argument to this EV thing is don't make it sound like a V8. Make it sound like the Jetsons car, right? Make it sound like that thing, that troop transport from Alien, right? Make it sound wicked. Make it sound like a buzzsaw, right? You know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, y'all. Why can't it sound like that? Why does it have to sound like somebody's idea of what a V8 is supposed to sound like? No, create your own identity. God, please, Dodge, get it right once, just one time. Listen, guys, this is what drives me bananas, is that I'm saying what a lot of people are thinking. When I talk to guys, we're just talking about cars, hanging out, bullshit and whatever. If you're going to create your own new brand identity and you're going to have electric vehicles at the forefront of that new brand identity, then don't drag the V8 sound into this, especially when the car is faster than every other V8 car that you've ever freaking made. I don't want to hear about the Demon 170. It doesn't count because it's a drag racy race vroom vroom car. It's a prepped surface only car. I get clowned by everybody with $50 freaking $1,000 builds on a 5.0 truck platform. And I mean 50 grand in the whole thing. Don't make it sound like whatever that sound is, make it go away. I want it to sound like something badass that runs on electricity that's scary. How about just make it not have anything at all? This is what scares me so much about where this is going, guys. We'll get to the H6 stuff in a minute, but let me just, I gotta get this out of my system. The thing that offends me the most about, again, and we're talking like a tale of two Mopars, right? The thing that offends me the most about, like I have emotional involvement with this, but the EV thing, who's the market? Who's the target audience for that? How many do you plan on selling? The problem with the EV is that you're going to have some type of charger at your house to charge this thing, which means that you're going to have to be in a certain position in life to be able to afford it, which is to say somebody that can afford a house and that can also afford the charging docking station, whatever it's going to be, and somebody that can not only afford the house, the docking station, and to wire it up to 220 or 440 watt gigawatts, whatever it is, that you're going to need to hook this thing up to. So you have to own a house, have the money for the thing, the contraption, have the money for an electrician to do electrician stuff, and then have your own basically halon system at the house just in case the thing overcharges, some kind of short happens, and the thing bursts into flames. This happens with EVs, not to all of them and not to a vast majority of them, but the ones that it does happen to, it's a bit of a problem. It's a bit of a problem enough to where, remember, my dad used to have to tell EV drivers, if the thing starts smoking, if you smell something that doesn't smell like normal, get the thing off the track. It's going thermonuclear. That's your buying demographic for the EV. It doesn't make enough power to warrant the attention of the people that can actually afford it. That's the other side of this. And think about this. You're going to spend $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 at least on one of these machines, plus all the rest of the crap that you have to get for it. For that kind of money, you can do all kinds of other exciting things. Plaids aren't that much more expensive when we start talking about these types of numbers. So, 670 horse. It's all-wheel drive and it's instant torque. Wow. Hey, here's something else I want to ask you guys. If you're a red-eye owner, how do you like being called out by name by Tim the Business and have that be the barometer by which they tested the car against. Hey, listen, this shitloads less expensive EV that we have than that $90,000 red eye that you bought. Yeah, your red eye is going to get skewed by this freaking blender on wheels. How, if you've got a red eye, where's your mind at right now? Where's your head? Where are you boys at? Bring me some knowledge. I want to know. I want to know where you're at. I want to know, what does it feel like knowing that this Scat Pack is going to show its ass to your red eye? And how much did you spend on said beastie? $80,000? $90,000? It's not a prep only car like the Demons are. Like the, dare I say, Superstock is. So that's what pissed me off about it too. So when you take all of that into consideration, exactly what is it again that that Dodge was looking to do with this latest release? The go-to-market strategy is pretty lousy, if you ask me. And don't tell me that, oh, the Scat Pack's faster than a this or that from a that. Listen, just, what are you trying to do? Convert red eye owners into EV owners? Is the only metric now that we have to look at 0 to 60, quarter mile times, eighth mile times, or whatever? I don't know that that's exactly healthy. Let's just put it to you that way. The EVs aren't going to go anywhere. The people that would want them at all, or the people, let's say the age demographic that may want them, can't afford them, and don't have the ability to afford the things, the carriage house that you're going to need that is going to have to house this thing and charge it, and whatever else could possibly go potentially wrong with it. I'll put it to you like this. It's so bad. The EV situation is such that my wife, smoking hot, won't let any EV come anywhere near our house. Okay. So it's kind of funny when you look at it from that point of view, but it's only because of what she learned through my dad. So think about that for a minute. Moving on, let's talk about the H6 cars, the 6-shooters, the P-shooters, the 6-smackers, whatever it is. Love it. Absolutely love it. I called this a while back and I said, look, that engine in that car at that weight, whatever the weight is, less than, is going to be a monster. On the street, all-wheel drive and 550 horsepower, holy crap. That thing is going to be a monster. Well, it will be, provided that it doesn't cost $70,000. See, here's the problem. Trucks, 4-wheel drive trucks cost an average of $60,000 to $70,000. 2-wheel drive trucks cost $50,000 to $65,000. Cars are costing $45,000 to $55,000. And this, being a bit of a kind of a niche product, is probably going to check in at $55,000, maybe $65,000. That's a hell of a damn lot of money. It's a hell of a damn lot of money for a car that, well, let's be fair, will have questionable build quality coming out of the factory. Although it will have an internal combustion engine, it won't have the fabled V8. Now, here's where I may differ with some of you guys. I love the idea of it having an H6. Don't need to have a V8 to go fast in this technology, but I'm also a free market kind of guy. You know, like the market wants it and you can make it, why not? I find it weird that Mopar isn't offering up a V8 for this car. Now, granted, this is kind of walking in lockstep with what I was begging for earlier on. Please come out with a car that caters to Cold War kid mentality. Basically, Dodge back in the day didn't have any V8s. They had 4-cylinder and 6-cylinder turbos. And they did very well. And that was really cool back then because it was Mopar with their philosophy versus V8s and that philosophy. And believe me, Mopar won plenty of their fair share of races, both on track and on the street. So I'm cool with not having a V8. But what I'm bummed about is that the V8 is going away entirely. So in saying that, what happens to the brand identity? I mean, Hemi, y'all. Isn't that what we've been told for this long? We've had that whole Hemi thing crammed into our heads so much that without it, is it even a Mopar? I got to ask you another question. What would you call it? The Hurricane. Okay. So does Hurricane now take the place of Hemi in the whole lexicon of performance? Just curious. But again, this is what we have to work with. If I'm buying one of these cars, I'm buying the H6. There's no way I'm buying an EV. I don't care if that thing can go into warp drive and fetch me a latte from some planet far away. That's not the point. And this brings me to another topic. At what point is it, how fast do you have to go? Like, let me just put it to you another way. At what point is it fast enough? I'm questioning this because as I have been kind of on this motorcycle journey, I know it's kind of a weird tie-in, but just roll with me. This will start to make sense. I'm one of these, and the running joke, and I'll even say it's like I'm this motorcycle Zen master, right? I've never met a motorcycle I didn't like or I didn't enjoy something about. And for the type of people that will say it's not fast enough, it doesn't have enough power, it doesn't have enough this, or it doesn't do enough of that, I'm always like, yeah, but it's cool. It's fun. And that's the most important part of this. So I guess where I'm going with this is there anything fun about the EV, or is it just fast? I mean, the good thing is that it can at least not throw a rod. It won't ever, lose a lifter. The cam will never go flat. I don't think I've heard of any issues with the Hurricane 6, but you get the idea. There's a lot of upside to the EV, provided you have all of the resources to own one. But let's be real. Most people don't. Nobody does, frankly. And so is it that fun when it's that inconvenient? I don't know. The whole, we're going to make it act like it has a transmission and we're going to do all of this and that. Stop the campy crap. Stop just, you don't need to do that. Stop it. Oh, it feels just like it's got a transmission. That means it's not acting in the most efficient form that it possibly could. Now, if it's a switchable thing and you just want to try it out, you're going to do it. But when you really want to get serious, that's something different. But I think I get what they're trying to do with the whole make it feel like it's got a transmission, and it's trying to make it feel more familiar. This is something that CVT transmission tuners had done at one point because people were, frankly, they were kind of weirded out by the fact that they would floor their car and nothing would happen. It would just make noise. Well, I mean, it would accelerate, but again, people are weird and they like what they like and they don't like change. So give them an EV, but make it act like a ICE, or at least make it act like it's got a transmission in an internal combustion engine. I don't know. Probably not my cup of tea. Because for me, I'm looking at that experience as its own unique experience. It's a freaking EV. I don't need it to act like anything other than an EV. Do EV stuff. I'm still not going to buy one. I have no interest in it. But getting back to the 6-cylinder cars, guys, give them a chance. I know it's not a V8. Look, I love the sound of inline sixes. When they're piped up right, they sound sick to death. So if that's a new sound of performance, I'm all right with it. I grew up around that kind of stuff. So we're cool. But I'll tell you, I just don't know if moving forward, I don't know where we're going to be with all of this. I know some people are looking forward to this as being like the next coming of the, I don't know, the American 2JZ, or a coming of, I should say, the American 2J. The aftermarket hasn't cracked the code yet on the operating system for those engines, though. And because of that, we're just going to have to wait. There could be some direct connection upgrades or whatever. We can only hope. But in this case, that's the only thing that is going to keep some folks engaged in that car, because, again, there's not going to be any aftermarket support for it, not until they crack the code on that operating system. So there's that. There's plenty of power to be had in that thing, though. And to be able to float that thing out there with about 850 horsepower, that'd be pretty sick. Dang it, there's a catch, though. There's always that catch, right? 3 liters, 550 horsepower. It's like a 6 liter making 1100 horsepower. It's doing it on gasoline. There's only one way you can do that, and with wads of boost. Guys, remember that the standard output H6 makes its 420 horsepower with 26 pounds of boost. That's a lot. It's a whole lot of boost to make 420 horsepower. The Ford EcoBoost, for example, makes 400 horsepower on 15. 550 is getting done on 29 PSI. Again, basically 2 full atmospheres of boost. That's a lot. That's a whole lot. In fact, there's a lot of tuners that, for the street anyway, don't like to go anywhere near those numbers. Here we are, though, with Dodge getting after it. Sweet. Like I was talking about way earlier on in the live show, why don't we have E85 versions of those cars? That engine, and remember, we've talked about this before, that engine has a higher specific output than the Demon 170 by a fairly healthy little margin, too. And it's doing it on 93 octane. Now, granted, it's got direct injection. There's a lot of things. But we could have had E85. We could have had E85 in that thing, which, based on the boost number, would probably mean that it would pick up a extremely healthy amount of power. So, color me unimpressed. My boys, I'm not there. I'm sure these things are fast. I'm sure they do a lot of wicked and wild things. On one hand, you have the EV, which will do all of the EV things. It'll be, Captain Planet in terms of whatever you want to call the environmentalist aspect of it. It'll be plenty fast for those that can afford it and can find a place to charge it. So there's that. But then you have the H6 crowd. Still internal combustion. It's an inline 6. Falls in line with the Cold War kid idea. I do like that a lot. It's a bit of an untested platform, so hopefully it holds together. I know it's been in the Grand Wagoneer or whatever, but people aren't trying to run Grand Wagoneers the way that they are. But stock, they seem to be holding together okay. Just make absolute sure that you run that thing on premium for fear that you rattle a piston. And, things can go south very quickly at that point. So, in total, where do we go with this? Well, I would have to say that for those that are willing to make the investment and stick with Dodge, stick with Mopar, holdouts, this is what you're going to be up to. Fantastic for you. Stoked for you. You're going to be messing around with cars that are going to be incredibly fast, no matter which direction you go. incredibly fast and are going to be capable in ways that every car that you've ever fallen in love with leading up to this was incapable of doing. That's obviously evident, again, because Dodge is utilizing their own red-eye platform as their measuring stick for how much faster the much less expensive EV will be. Didn't quite mention the fact that the H6 will put, especially the HO and all-wheel drive, will put that same red eye on the trailer. That is facts. So let's not get into the comparison just yet. They haven't hit the streets. But by all accounts, this thing is going to be nasty. Provided that it doesn't weigh half a ton, and provided that it holds together long enough, and provided that it doesn't have all the electrical issues that I've been so happy to experience over these days. So let me check in with you guys real quick. Buzz through some comments. We got to get, who was first in? Brent, what's up? Brent's first in. Chase is in. Red Dog's up, man. Chase saying he's got some news. Brent's saying those things are going to flop. Probably. Ryan saying, what's up, Professor? The six-pack, though, I know it. Tad, I don't know how you call electric car a muscle car. You don't. Jay saying, I gapped a tuned truck tonight with a stock motor in my truck. Very nice. Very nice. I like it. Ryan said, I'm liking the all-wheel drive HO i6. I'm kind of digging the shape, too. I know it grows on me every time I look at it. Yep. Oh, Brent's saying they're almost 6,500 pounds. What? Dad's saying Dodge is trying to alienate their entire customer base. I get it. I don't know that it's alien. You know, I get that there are emissions standards that folks have to deal with. And horsepower to me is horsepower. It could have 8, 10, 12, 13 and a half. I don't care how many cylinders it has. Just as long as it rips and as long as it's a proper hot ride, that's all I care about. X is in. Got the flex. Ryan's in. The woo girl, yeah. The other guy saying, sub B, design too bland. Mr. Gill should have done a more aggressive design. I'm still not on board with it just yet, but we've got to see it. Ryan saying our Star Wars blasters, lightsabers. Oh, talking about the sound, yeah. Red Dog saying, should sound like a jet engine. It could. X saying Dodge turning into an EV company just doesn't sound right. E-Muscle, yeah, no, E-Muscle sounds like something that you buy at a shop that's next to a liquor store. Ryan saying, evening everyone. What's up, Ryan? I just want to know who's going to have a V8. If not, I don't want it. A lot of folks in that camp. Hey, by the way, I was in that camp with trucks. And I went forward because I was not going to get another E-Torque truck. Forget it. Not happening. Like saying, I would have my engine implode 100 times before I ever get an EV. I get it. BB saying, I was waiting for the live stream with bated breath. Glad to have you, brother. Oh, Red Dog, the vape place blew up. I haven't heard about that. Oh, XCI, they are a fire hazard. No doubt about it. Oh, Red saying, oh, the lithium batteries went off. Yep. Of course, saying the battery replacement is going to be 10 to 20 grand at least. The hilarity of electric muscle car likely gapped by Teslas. Yeah. Yeah, and Tesla, the Plaids come down a lot in price, man. And it is the gold standard by which everybody checks their EV against. So, Medeiros, read the room, guys. Why is Chrysler going to EV when the other two big three have stopped production? Honestly, I think it's because they got this far into it. I think that they may have just not had a way out, to be frank. They invested all of this money. They did everything that I guess they were told to do. And so they have got to do something with this car. Again, luckily, it still can be an internal combustion platform. Let's just hope they hold together. That's the most we can start out with. Oh, Stuart saying, I recently bought a Challenger from a Ford dealership. They mentioned the Mach-E is absolutely not selling at all. I'm not surprised. Yeah, they're offering up 0% financing for 72 months and $3,000 cash back on that car right now. Nobody wants them. Nobody wants them, not because nobody wants them. It's because they're incredibly expensive and they're very inconvenient to own. Let me ask you something. Let me ask some of you guys that are maybe in your 20s or 30s and you're still living in an apartment. Man, I loved apartment life. Not to get nostalgic, but good times. Anyway, where would you charge this thing? How would you charge this thing? How many EV charging stations are going to be in and around your area? And what if you live in a sketchy neighborhood? I mean, some people have to drive across town to get gasoline just so they don't feel like they're going to get robbed. You can't just roll to some, EV charging station, assuming that it doesn't get vandalized and torn out of the ground. What happens when charging is simply that inconvenient? There's so many realities of life that are not being taken into account here. These are people that are isolated. These are people that have no ties to work a day, folks, reality. People that have to get up and go through the grind and go through the drudge, that don't get to come to work with their lattes and go, oh my God, Frankie, did you see what happened over there? Yes, I saw what happened over there and I was appalled. Balderdash. That's the idea. That's who I'm seeing with these companies as who are putting these ideas together. I even see it in my F-150. I won't dive too deep into that. I still need to do a standalone video on that truck, but there's some of that balderdash kind of going on. It would be nice if we can make it to where if you turn the truck on, but you turn a feature off, but it's a safety thing. And, it's really good if you have the safety, because safety is good, because safety is safe for everybody. It's especially when we can collect your driving habit information and do with it what we shall. Yeah, turn that feature off. Anyway, you get the idea. What the hell were we talking about? Anyway, let me get my glasses back on. Charging stations. So yeah, the EV thing, they're so divorced from reality that I think that there is this is the other thing. I think that there's a lack of an understanding for who can buy their cars, who is the buying public that they're calling to. And again, I feel like they don't understand the 25 to 35-year-old life. You're just finding out that you got some chick pregnant or some dude just got you pregnant. And you're like, God damn, I just wanted to have a good time. And now I got to deal with this. And, my boss is a prick and he or she is always trying to stick their hand in my pants or up my skirt. And I got to deal with that. And freaking this friend of mine who keeps banging all of my friends. And it's just like da-da-da-da-da-da. And you can see where this is going. Like people have like just life they're dealing with. And so what they don't want is oh my God, I got to wonder, where am I going to charge this shit box that I'm spending $65,000 and like half my paycheck on every month just to get from point A to point B because I want to feel good about the frogs somewhere in Minnesota and whatever. That is kind of where I'm at with this. And I don't, God, I'm rambling on right now. I don't get the idea that the EV thing is a good thing just yet. I'm talking about going around my ass and around my leg to get to my elbow, but that's where I'm at with this. I hate the idea that you're going to sell a car that is not even a complete thing because you have to buy upgrades or something to this thing. That's the part of it that scares me, and that's the part of it, not really scares me. It scares me away from it. So that's the best I can tell you. Brett, thank you very much. Appreciate the support, man. I really a ton appreciate it. Saying at some point they're going to price people out from buying their things. They can't sell the 2023s out there for 70 grand for a 392. No way. 100K for a Hellcat. Nope. These things are going to be heavy and way overpriced. See, that's okay. So I did want to touch on that. I wanted to get to that part too. Okay. So here's where Dodge Dodge has got to get it right somewhere. The Hurricane 6 is a light engine, at least by Hemi standards. But I don't know that the rest of that car is going to be light. And if we're talking about a car that's still checking in at 4,200 pounds, if it's all-wheel drive, that's one thing, but that's just a lot of freaking weight, man. That's a lot to have to deal with. So don't get me wrong, it would still be fast. We're talking about the H6, but the EVs are very heavy. So again, we'll just have to, I guess we'll start seeing this stuff when they start showing up. But Brent, thank you so very much, buddy. I appreciate that. And again, you're speaking to exactly what we're talking about. The people that will want to buy those cars can't, and the people that can buy the cars won't want them. In many cases, I mean, I can see guys going for the HO all-wheel drive car just because it's going to be a monster on the street. And by the way, get ready for a lot of broken hearts out on the street. Lots of draggy videos, stuff like that, because that car, you can do it all on the street. So that's pretty sick. Big fan of that. But thank you again, brother. I appreciate it. Oh. X is saying Dodge eviscerated their brand identity when they ended the Hemi, because that's the only thing that Dodge was known for. Somebody had said what I was, I always say that, Dodge was following in the footsteps of Harley Davidson, where Harley is a lifestyle company that happens to also sell motorcycles. It's why a lot of people don't get into the brand. It's because it's not attractive anymore. It's like a game of dress up, and that's never a good look. So Dodge turned themselves into that, and by hanging themselves on their past, the Hemi, which is subjective in a lot of ways for a lot of folks that are in the know, it's got some, it's contrived legendary, right? But I mean, it's got a little bit of real panache mixed in there. So, but too many people are walking away from the brand right now. In the same way that too many people are walking away from the brand of Harley Davidson. There's a lot of people that are walking away from these contrived lifestyle brands. And because they've seen it for what it is. It's fake, it's false, it's bullshit, it's whatever. You can't say America, V8. You can't do that with an inline six. So when I start to understand the V8 side, that's where I understand it from. Even though I may not agree with it, it is a bit of a step into reality for a lot of folks. So you have to respect it. Sovereign's in. What's up, man? Saying, hey, B, what's up? Ryan, good point. Maybe the E85 is direct connection stage packages for the six-pack. I could understand that thinking greedily. Yep. Maybe you're right. Old school dragster. What up, B? What up, old school? Got the flex. X saying, do we know if these 6 cylinders are iron blocks or aluminum? They are aluminum, and they are sleeved. That's a shit ton of booze. Kind of worried about cylinder pressure. Yep. Arfos got the cadence down. Got the ball guy with the shades and the flex. Gets the big flex. X is saying, I will give it 5 months before we see a Hellcat swap version of the 6-cylinder. If it fits, somebody will do it. X saying the impersonations, yeah. X saying, I live in an apartment and pay an extra $150 a month for the garage where my Challenger stays. I was in a cool apartment complex. They had extra garages, and I could have all the garages I wanted back then. And they would only charge me I think it was $80 a month, and I had 3 of them at one point. And again, Brent, thank you very much. Old school saying, I'll bet you my life that they'll come out with 1,000 horsepower plus super stock variant. So don't forget that Maserati already has their 800 volt Gran Turismo something or another or whatever it is. Anyway, it was the 800 volt kit is kind of funny. So to put that in perspective, Teslas are 400 and the 800 is basically running in series to 400 watt units. In other words, 400 watt packs. But the problem is when you run them in series and not in parallel, when you run them in series, you half your milliamp hours. So whatever your total amp hours are, you half that, and that's what your range is based on. So if you run them in parallel, it just means that you're stacking milliamp hours on top of each other. It's a way to ramp up power output at the expense of economy. So that is to say that you can have a bunch of power, but it's not going to last very long. You have to have a humongous battery to keep up with, or at least a humongous twin pack, if you will. Ryan saying, I've been seeing the 2023 last scat packs for 65 to 58. Wow, that's a lot. Last call, gotcha. Oh, I see. Last call scat packs. Yeah, they're 65 for one of those is nuts. Ryan saying here in Missouri on dealerships. Nice. King Daytona. No, nobody even knows what that is. BB saying, unrelated question. What are your thoughts on 306 versus 392 Gay-Trag LSD for a NAG1 car? 392 gets buzzy on the highway. I probably wouldn't do it if it's my car. 306 limited slips, actually really not bad overall. It's more of a true, honest to God, street highway gear. Like in town, great, street, great, whatever. You've got a torque converter, so and it's a NAG1, so you'll have a little bit higher stall converter in that car. They work really well with the 306. I know it's a little bit counterintuitive, and I know that I've said that my own personal build probably have a 370 gear, but man, the reality is that it does get a little bit too buzzy on the highway. I've had 390 gear cars before, and it was just annoying after a while. Oh, but they're saying there's one charging station in my town and the next one between 150 and 300 Ks away. Damn, the only charger here is at a hotel, so no thanks. Yeah, for sure. Brent, man, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. Saying also, just saw this. Also sad day, my 6.1 had a lifter give up today. Damn, 2,000 for a new cam and lifter sucks, but I have an awesome wife that wants it fixed before summer. That's good. Have a few beers on me and enjoy your new truck. Thank you so very much. Man, I truly appreciate that, bud. Hate to hear about the lifter, though. Hey, guys, truth be told, I don't want to say this too loudly, but I think Stormy may have had a stung lifter. I don't know that for sure, but the signs might have been there a little bit. A little bit too much of a tap here and there. Some things were just not right with that truck. And it was such a neat truck, but guys, I got to be honest with you, that the Coyote 5.0, it goes without saying what that thing's capable of doing. But the truck itself, because it's got an aluminum cab, is lighter. And it's lighter by a lot. Truck for truck. So my 4-wheel drive F-150 is 20 pounds lighter than Stormy was, which was a 2-wheel drive with the Hemi and e-torque. So you can say, well, that's a Hemi, but it's got e-torque in the battery and the thing. This is an F-150 with the big old rubber floor mats in it. I had 2 sets of impact sockets in the truck. I mean, both of them were very full of gas, but you get the idea. I mean, the truck is light for what it is. So, but thank you very much. I appreciate that. But bummer about the cam. But one that works well is 224, 232, intake center line of 109. Lift at about 580, 590. Of course, you don't have to worry about locking it out. And LSA of 113. That's a good little cam for that engine. So you were saying 4 valves per cylinder, 392. Good idea or unrealistic? Unfortunately, unrealistic, but not because of anything of the fault of the engine. It's just from packaging. The cylinder head on a 392 is about as tall as a Denny's hamburger. A little bit bigger like that. To go for something, I mean, it'd be like this. The engine would be massive. And that's because the cylinder head also has to harbor the cams, and basically all the valve train is up in the cylinder head as opposed to being in the block. So that's why they're significantly larger. And that also helps you to direct airflow a lot better. Arthur, got the cadence down, saying salute B Mason. Congrats on the new F-150. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Vincent, do I think the new Chargers look better than the previous? Haven't seen one in person, man. I'm not really there yet for them in print, so to speak. So until I see them in person, can't really say. Eric saying, good evening, Professor B. Good evening. Vince is asking, do you think your previous Ram looked better than this Ford you have? Good question. The Ram's a good looking truck. I think that there are some things about the Ram from an aesthetic point of view. There's actually a lot about the Ram that's better than the Ford. It has, I mean, the looks are kind of subjective. I do like them both, but I would be lying if I didn't say, I'd be lying if I said that I liked the Ford significantly more than the Ram. I think they're both good looking trucks, but there's good points to the Ford. There's good points to the Dodge. Where the Dodge does a badass job, there's two things. One is transmission tuning. Even in sport mode, the Ford can sometimes be a little hunty-pecky, but it's also still going through break-in. And it even says, like, for the first 1,000 miles, it's going to act and do and make funny noises, and it's going to be weird. So they tell you that right off the bat. So we'll get to where that ends up. But the user information, the driver information is far better than the Ford. With the Dodge, it's far better than the Ford is. Is that information really needed or necessary? I don't know. But again, the Dodge does do some things better than the Ford. Vince asks, do I think 485 horsepower is a lot for a street car, or for a street truck? Yeah, it is. It's a shitload. Of course it is. Cass is in saying, there's tests for metal in your oil. There's a cool trick where you just slide out the cam without a complete teardown. Some Challenger mechanic on YouTube has the walkthrough. He has a big shop. You can do that. You can just pull the cam. The problem is you got to pull the heads to do the lifters. And although you can, because the buckets the lifters sit in, you can pull the front of the engine apart, get everything out of the way. Pull the cover off, and then once you can turn the cam and just push the lifters up into the buckets just like an LS. That part of it isn't that bad. The problem comes if you want to use new lifters. Again, you have to remove the heads to do that part of it. But they're saying EVs aren't an option in Northern Ontario, especially not with the cold winters. Exactly. We get here, the range will go way down. In fact, it's probably goes down by about a third or more. Old School is asking, are you going for the C170B? I am eager for the future videos. I got kind of, I don't want to use the word screwed out of, but I won't be messing with a 170 unless somebody tosses me the keys. I won't, I don't have any way to get one. They're already spoken for, but the one that I was trying to get, I kind of got bombed on by the dealership. So no C170 for me, unfortunately. Matt's saying, what if you had got a regular cab F-150 with the Coyote? It would already have the supercharger on it if I had already done that. Vince is asking, are you planning on finding an MSRP Demon 170 to purchase? Nope. Don't even need it. Here's the problem with that. If I picked up a C170, what would I do with the thing? To me, I'm It's got to be fun. It's got to be interesting. It's got to have street ability. And as great as the Demon 170 is, it will get its ass kicked badly by this new i6 HO that's hitting the street soon. And because the i6 will be able to hook every single time on the street, you can utilize all of that power. And at some point, eventually, yeah, the Demon's going to run it down, I guess, provided you stay in it long enough. But the reality is that I'm just, guys, look, and I hate to say this, but, well, let me just show you a picture of something. That's my background. That's my old Cobra, 427, Kuntz & Company, had a T-trim on it. And at this point in time, it did rock a GT40 intake. That was there kind of temporarily as I was getting the car kind of wrapped up and so I can move the thing around. But ended up with a box intake. The thing is that this thing was at the time about an 850 horsepower car. Was a monster, right? So what happens when, you know, something like that, a street car that's a straight up monster that back in that day was, I mean, it was real hard to mess with that car. And we were making power numbers like that so long ago that it's just, I can't even, it's so weird to think about it. But that car really wasn't all that great on the street. If it had all-wheel drive, it'd have been a different story. But when I would throw the drag radials on it, I'm sorry, it was ET Streets bias ply is what we ran on the street when we were actually running it on the street. And the drag radials were just on the back of it for fun. The drag radials, it would just light the things up. That was pointless. And it was a 5-speed car too, by the way. You have to have tires like that on a car with power like that. That car basically had roughly the same power to weight ratio that the Demon 170 would have. Not quite as good, but you get the idea. Something that would hook up would embarrass that car until I gathered up my skirt and caught him. It was rare for me to lose a race. I was usually going to run somebody down. But the idea is still the same. The Demon 170 to me is just a drag race car. And you almost need to put that into perspective. That's why Kaniskis in his video said the fastest no prep related or whatever the guy said. That was something that was one of those cringy little things that came up in that. So anyway, I guess it's a long way to say, no, I'm not getting a 170. Oh, Sovereign's real interested in the 6-pack. Same. Oh, Dan said, I think the new Chargers look good on camera. I doubt they'll offer a manual transmission. Agreed. With the Hurricane, so I'm not interested. I will drive my 5.7 Challenger for another decade. I like it. Vincent, yeah, those are basically the same. Vince says, different dynos show different horsepower numbers. Which dyno should you trust and be most accurate? The one with the properly working weather station. As somebody who's been around dynos for a long time, I was the guy that was constantly trying to fix the Mustang dyno's weather station. I replaced motherboards in that thing. It was a mess. Anyway, in fact, in one of my older dyno chat videos, one of those videos was of Quick Brick's Charger, and that video was taken literally within minutes of me replacing yet another failed motherboard. They finally got it figured out. It was a bad when they put these things together, there was something wrong with the way that a transistor was affixed to these motherboards from the factory. It was like a glitch. and it would come loose. It was a mess. Anyway, um, so which one do you trust? Whichever one you most consistently used. I prefer eddy current dynos, but there's nothing wrong with an old school drum dyno either, like a 248C dyno jet. But they were saying it's interesting to see diesel pickups making 500 to 600 horse from factory now. A decade, isn't that the truth? That was easy to get, but not factory. True that. Max saying I'm waiting to see the proportions in real life. It looks sort of funky in pics on the internet. True that. Old school brotherhood of muscle. Yeah. Be leery of any company that sells you on family or brotherhood or whatever. That's never a good sign. That's that's a lasso UN type of thing. So be part of our family. Guys, I reluctantly go to Christmases and holidays. So saying be part of our family. You're not selling me. You're not selling me something on what? Hemi's liking the 4-door version better than the 2-door. I'm not there yet with either one of them. Muscle EV is not muscle. No, it didn't. Sounds like a cult. Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it, Mac? But guys, I got to wrap it up here pretty soon, but I want to thank y'all for hanging out with me. I would not do this without you. I'm really interested to see where this goes. But again, I am going to let some of this play out a little bit, and we're going to get into the tale of two Mopars, both EV and internal combustion. I think both of them deserve their own videos. Although I think probably the rant that I'm going to end up teeing off on with the EVs. Just know that it comes from a good place, okay? Love you guys. But the EVs, I'm sorry, I have too much of an issue with the EV, the way that it's being forced down our throats. I don't mind being sold something, but just don't shove it down my throat, right? The 6-cylinder cars, I'm actually very cool with. Again, Cold War kid and all of that. But I guess from where I'm coming from, I want there to be some support, whatever it is. That's the main thing. Brent, my man, golly, thank you so much. Sometimes it's better to have a car you take to the track and a car you run on the street. Fun is fun. Don't always need the most power. Guys, I'll tell you this. I have moved away from wanting, and thank you so much, but I appreciate that. I really do, Brent. But I am no longer, not that I really ever was. I mean, the power that the cars that I was running, they made them because I was racing them. I mean, many cases we're putting money on some of these races. The roll race stuff. Look, here's the thing. Having a whole lot of power is not always a good thing. The analogy I always give is the shit sandwich. Like if I give you a shit sandwich, do you want more or less of that sweet filling that I'm putting into the shit sandwich? That's kind of the idea. You can have too much of a good thing. Not that the shit's a good thing. You get the idea, though. You have to have an appropriate amount of power to be able to get the job done. But you keep going much more and more and more beyond that, and the thing becomes less and less and less usable, and it becomes more and more a liability. This is the Hellcat paradox, where the Hellcat is a fantastic car as an automobile. It's built like a freaking tank, extremely durable car, but it makes a whole lot of power. It does not have a whole lot of tire, and so it can't really put the power to the ground. So then they did the weirdest thing, and they made it have more power with the red eye. And now you've got more power that you can't make hook. And so it it's a weird paradox where the more power you have, the less power you can put to the ground. It's very strange. And again, the more of a liability the whole package becomes. So again, for me, it becomes less about more power, and let's get an amount of power that we know we can make hook up on the street. Make an engine that will rev so that it has some fun factor to it, to where we're not just spinning the thing to 5,500 RPM. Have something that will actually rev, something that will do well making power on the big end. Make it light so that it at least has a decent feel to it, but still give it some robust drivetrain components. These are the things that we need for it to make sense. And for a car to make sense. The same works in the motorcycle world too. Way too much power means the bike is too much of a handful and it quits being fun. You can say that power is just a turn of the wrist away. I bought the whole throttle cable. I'm going to use it, dag it. So there you have it. But again, Brent, thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate that for the support. Summer's not loving the EV, and him he's saying, yeah, not really about the looks just yet. Might grow on me, or might grow the way the C8 did. But guys, with that, again, Brent, thank you guys so much. You know, like I say, it means a ton. Brent, thank you again for all the support, buddy. But with that, guys, I do have to wrap it up. Listen, get out there, guys. Get something. Get out there and do something for somebody. Do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. Got really kind of wrapped up in a thought there for a second. You know, we're coming into 2024. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of uncertainty out there with like the car world and just a whole lot of other stuff in general. Everybody's a little bit stressed out. Have a little bit of grace with the folks that you're dealing with right now. If it's on the road, if it's, you know, out in the publics or whatever, you know, people are in their own heads, and you know how it is. I'm guilty of that too. So, you know, have grace with yourself and have grace with folks out there. Be cool. And, like I say, do something cool for somebody, because chances are they need it more than you know. And with that, guys, now that is a wrap. We'll catch y'all on the next one. Adios.